Any questions, please come up here.
Was that about 45 minutes? Did I do it?
Is it working?
Right?
Yeah, well, I'll use it as a mic. Okay. Well, I have one question before people start coming up here. So you talked about how secular societies fare better than religious societies. And then you talked about atheist states like the USSR and North Korea. Is that a fair comparison? I mean, a secular state is something different from an atheist state, I believe. I mean, we're not fighting for an atheist Denmark. We're fighting for a secular Denmark.
Yes. I think they are different. I think you're absolutely right. For example, Albania I mentioned. And I mentioned Albania because it was the first officially declared atheist country in the world. This guy, I can't pronounce his name. In English, we would say Enver Hoxha or something. I mean, this guy, not only did he make Albania an atheist state, but he made it illegal to possess Bibles and Qurans. He bulldozed churches and mosques. I heard he even made it illegal to give your child a religious name. So you're right. I mean, there was an aggressive... The USSR had this league of militant atheists, and their mission was to make people atheists. And if you were religious, you could be arrested in certain cases and sent to be tortured. I mean, there's no question that there's a difference between imposing atheism and making religion illegal, as opposed to, I think, simply saying we would like a secular society. Religion's permissible and it's okay, and you're free to be religious. You just can't impose that on others, and it can't be part of the government per se. Yeah, I think they're very, very different. But to me, the reason those other societies were so horrible was also just because they were dictatorships. I mean, that was really what was going on, I think.
Yeah, I believe that's a common factor that you can't ignore.
Exactly. And it works both ways. The Christian dictators are nasty as well. We can look at dictatorships that are still religious, and it's really nasty. So to me, that's why in my comparisons, I sort of take that out, and I prefer to compare democracies to democracies, and then go from there.
And please, if you have questions, come up here. And if you don't want to ask questions in English, you're welcome to say it in Danish, and either I'll translate or you can say whether you understood it or not.
Yes.
But please, come up here. Hmm? Yeah, you can queue up over here if you want to. Just come up here.
Okay, it was very interesting to hear what you have mentioned, the Jewish nation as the most secular, the most atheistic. I think I can also add something to this. I'm Jewish too. What happened with the Jewish nation, it was something which, but I'm very loud. There was a huge transition from being very, very religious to being practically non-religious during a very short time. And a very good example is what happened to the Eastern European Jews, especially Polish Jew. And Poland as such is a very good example about religious and not religious. To be religious, to be Catholic, it was the same as to be Polish.
Yeah.
To be Jewish, it was the same as to belong to the Jewish religion. It was not a question of nation, it was a question of religion. After the World War II, or even before, within the Jewish population there were two very strong movements, the communism and the Zionism. And this has changed the Jewish population overnight, almost. Because the Jews started to believe, yes, we can. Yes, we can do this without God. And this was what made the Jewish population atheist or secular. And another, I would say, bad example are the Eastern European, the so-called socialist countries, where the religion, the God was changed just to another religion.
Yeah.
It was religion, still a religion. There was no difference between God, Enver Hoxha, or Stalin, or Lenin, or Marx. They were gods. And people had to believe in them. And as soon as they have realized we don't need those gods, they became secular. So it's not question but just about believing in some extraterrestrial God, but just in believing in ourselves, human beings. Yes, we can. This is the main point.
Thank you. I agree. I could be mistaken, but it seems the same thing happened with the Danes. I mean, in the creation of the welfare state, I think was because Danes just put their heads together and said we need to stop letting people die of hunger and freeze in the cold, and we have to build a good society. I could be wrong.
We don't have to wait that Allah do something for us. We can do it ourselves.
It's not a question, it's a comment. You were wondering what a bunch of atheists are doing in an atheist country. Well, you can never be too secular.
Okay.
And even Denmark could be improved.
Okay, wait. Et øjeblik. I need to hear more. What needs to be, what do you mean by you can never be too secular, and what needs to be improved?
Well, true separation of church and state would be nice to begin with. Well, that's the main thing, actually, and that's the main thrust of the organization.
Let me say this to you. Do you know the phrase, be careful what you wish for?
Yes.
Do you have that in Danish?
Yeah.
Let's say if we could go in a time machine to 1783, I guess. Is that when we wrote the Constitution in the United States? Continental 1776 was the revolution. Then my family was in Eastern Europe, but Americans beat the English and then decided to draft a constitution, 1780-something. In that constitution, in the first sentence of the first number 1 in the Bill of Rights, so it's the first and not, the government shall not there shall be no established religion. Yeah. That's the first thing. Now what, 1849, is that the Danish Constitution? Right? 1849? Right there, boom, we are establishing the national Danish Folkekirke, and it's the official religion of the government, and blah, blah, blah. So if we would go in a time machine, and you look at the United States, and you'd say, my goodness, in their constitution, they're saying the government and religion have to be totally separate, no establishment of religion by the government. And then we look at the Danish constitution, and here they're making the religion, part of the government. Which would you bet was the site you would think, oh, my goodness, these Americans are creating a secular society, and these Danes are creating a theocracy. And yet, 100, 200 years later, the opposite happened. This separation of church and state in the United States actually enabled religion to be dynamic and to thrive and to grow, and there was competition, and it became really alive. And then the government support of religion in Denmark made the church totally almost weak and boring and stale, and today you have the lowest rates of church attendance in the world, lowest levels of belief. So I guess I'm always a little worried. I think, gosh, if you really try to separate religion totally, I fear you're going to have a rebound.
You think that Folkekirken is a sort of inoculation?
It seems to be that way.
You get a weak strain of the virus.
It seems to be that way.
Sorry.
I can just tell you from my interviews with Danes, my goodness. I even interviewed, last time I was here, kids that had just gone through confirmation. 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds. Oh, how was your... They were in confirmation for a year, a school year, or 9 months or whatever. How was it? Oh, it was nice. Well, did you learn anything from the Bible? Well, Oh, yeah, this one story. There were 2 sets of footprints in the sand. And then there was only 1 set of footprints. And it was God and this guy. And the guy said, oh, Lord, that's the time when, where did you abandoned me when there was only 1 set of footprints. That's when I really needed you. And God said, no, that's when I carried you. It's a nice story, but it's not from the Bible. I mean, these kids, I don't know what they learned in confirmation. Now, granted, this was a certain part of Aarhus that maybe, I don't know. But yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I think I would be upset. And my daughter's in the 7th grade right now, and she just comes home very early on Wednesdays because she doesn't want to go to confirmation class. And I think it is a little bit strange that you have this confirmation class right in the heart of the school week. And I suspect that if they moved confirmation classes to 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the Folkekirke would be in real trouble. But, and so I understand if you think that it needs to be done. And do I have time for one more thing? Sure. You can never be too secular. It's an interesting comment. What I found in comparing non-religious people in America and non-religious people in Denmark, non-religious people in America are very anti-religious, and they know a lot about religion, and they care a lot about religion, and they worry a lot about religion. I found that your typical Dane was just kind of indifferent. They just didn't think about religion that much, and they didn't care about it. Which is more secular? You might think the American atheist is sort of more secular than the Dane. I'm not so sure. I think being totally indifferent and totally oblivious might actually be true secularity. That it's so not a part of your life that it has no meaning. So it's just something I had to say.
Yeah, on this point though, you studied Sweden as well, right?
Not as closely, but yes.
I mean, they just had the separation of church and state.
In 2000.
Yeah,
indeed.
And it doesn't seem like they have become the new US in Scandinavia.
Indeed.
So I think that even if we succeed in Denmark, we wouldn't see the same because we are already, as you say, so secular and so well educated. We wouldn't fall that low.
Indeed. It's true.
I think there's a difference because I don't think it would happen in Denmark, because in Denmark we have a very strong kind of social networking. In football, you play tennis, you play handball, you go to fishing clubs, you have all these kind of things.
Yeah.
In the States, I understand a lot of the social gathering is in the church.
Very true.
You still have bingo nights in Denmark, but it's a more city social groups.
Yeah.
It's not the church that arranges it.
Yeah.
And we do have a competition in Denmark. We have Intermission, we have Jehovah's Witnesses, we have the Mormons.
Yeah.
So it's not like we don't have any.
Yeah.
Well, the Folkekirke might be the cheap, easy way alternative. That might be nice, but we do have competition. So
That's true.
they should be able to sway people if they're these kind of people. And there are people who believe.
I think you're right. No, there's no question about it. In the United States, a very diverse country, ethnically, racially. I mean, people move around a lot. People come from all over the world. Religion tends to be the place to get a sense of community. And there's no question that Danes are joiners. I mean, my colleagues who've studied this, I mean, you even found out that on average, each Dane is a member of like 3.5 organizations, if I remember correctly. I mean, be it recreational or through work or charity or something. So, and there was even a bishop, I believe, who said something like, "I don't have to go to church to feel Danish. I feel Danish, every day, just being in Denmark, in this country where we speak this language." But in the United States, to feel a sense of belonging, it's not so easy. And religion certainly provides that. So you're right, it is different. And so perhaps it's not analogous at all. Did I get that quote right? Do you remember that one?
The one on the bishop?
Yeah, something about...
But actually it was Jan Lindhardt.
Okay.
Could you supposed to have said? He was supposed to have said, "I don't need to go to church on Sunday because I go in my Danishness every day."
Okay. Thank you.